Hello again. The jury trial, in which a dozen ordinary men and women decide on the innocence or guilt of a person accused of breaking the law, is one of the foundation stones of British society. It is our gift to the rest of the world too. However determined the government or police might be to see somebody locked up, the fate of the defendant ultimately depends not on the police or anybody else. It all falls to people like you and me to dictate what happens. In Northern Ireland, during the crisis known with typical British understatement as the Troubles, jury trial was suspended in favour of diplock courts when judges made the decisions about guilt and innocence. This was thought necessary because of the very real danger of intimidation or even the murder of jurors. Nobody liked it though, and it was reluctantly accepted as the lesser of two evils. Now, though, the government in Scotland has decided to revive the practice for one of the most serious crimes of all, that of rape, which can, of course, carry a sentence of life imprisonment. The reason is very simple. Juries are not convicting enough people of rape, and the only way to increase the number of convictions is to do away with juries and allow a single professional judge to decide the innocence or guilt of the accused. I give a link in the description to this video of a BBC News item about this. This is without doubt the most appalling thing imaginable, because make no mistake about it, this is a try-on, and if it works for rape trials in Scotland, then it will be extended, first to England, and then ultimately for other offences where juries are not making what the government thinks is the right decision. The conviction rate for rape is 51%, and for other offences it is over 90%. And this is, it is suggested, because those called for jury service are idiots who believe a lot of silly myths about the crime of rape. That's certainly one possible explanation for what is going on, but without stretching my mind too greatly, I can come up with at least a dozen more. For instance, the police in Britain are constantly being criticised for the small number of rape cases which make it as far as the courts. There's a very low clear-up rate for rape. This means that they are under pressure to charge more people with rape and bring them to court. Does anybody think it possible that to make their figures for arrests and charges for rapes look better, the police might be tempted to charge more people even though the evidence against them is weak? That juries spot the flimsiness of the case and decide to acquit? This then allows the police to claim that they are arresting and charging more rapists, and it's not their fault if the courts then fail to convict these wretches. Then too, when the consequences for a defendant can be so serious, is it possible that juries are a little more cautious about convicting men who may face life imprisonment? That they treat such cases as being a bigger deal than, say, burglary or car theft? Perhaps they spend longer discussing the matter and are reluctant to convict unless the evidence is really solid. Then too, the idea of what actually constitutes rape has changed dramatically in recent years. In the Netherlands a couple of months ago, a man was on trial for rape because he removed the condom which he was wearing when his partner agreed to sex. In other words, a man and woman get into bed consensually and have sex. So this is not what most of us would class as rape, but because he didn't wear a condom and she thought he was, then the police charged him with rape. He was in the event acquitted but given a suspended prison sentence for coercion. I give a link to a report on this case in the description to this video. This kind of thing has not quite reached that level in this country yet, but many of the rape trials in Britain certainly involve actions which nobody would have thought of as rape even 20 years ago. In other words, there are many possible explanations for the low rate of convictions when cases of rape reach the courts, which do not entail assuming that jurors are sexist idiots. The most alarming thing is that, as I said, this is being tried out to see if people will accept it. If it becomes a norm in Scotland, then this will be the thin end of a very awful wedge, which will begin to erode the idea of jury trials for all kinds of other offences. After all, the police go to all that trouble of getting the handcuffs out and arresting people and bringing them to court, and then a lot of them are promptly acquitted. That would not, of course, happen if only we scrapped jury trials and allowed professionals to decide the verdict. Although it is being treated by the mainstream media as a fairly dull little story and only of real interest to those geeks who are interested in legal matters, this business strikes at the very heart of our democratic system, our way of life, if you like. Allow professional lawyers and judges to decide who should be convicted and go to prison, and pretty soon you won't be able to recognise this country anymore as a liberal democracy.